All right, and gentlemen, welcome to Big Facts. It is Wednesday, and we just had our last game of football last night. I'm not sure if you guys watched any of that game, but let's start with this, Just. How are we feeling this morning now that we know what's going on with the Eagles on Sunday?
I'm excited because I've been calling for it for weeks. So I'm excited that somebody finally made the decision that has been so apparently necessary for the last couple of weeks.
Excited, optimistic, looking forward to see what the kids got. So obviously, and I'm sure everyone that listens to this podcast has heard by now, Jalen Hurts will be starting on Sunday against a very good defense and a very good team that's been together for a long time in New Orleans. Carson Wentz has officially been benched. So, Justin, we've talked about this amongst ourselves. We've had a couple phone calls and pushed some thoughts back and forth. But as the audience has not heard any of this. So what did you see? What did you like? What did you dislike when Jalen Hurts came into the game in the second half on Sunday? Were you surprised? Were you not surprised? And how do you think he played?
I can't not be surprised because Doug Peterson has showed us week in and week out he won't make the right decision. So it was surprising that he finally did it. I was quietly impressed with what Jalen Hurts did. I did not anticipate a turnaround of the offense or, all of a sudden we're going to have a top 5 quarterback in the league that was drafted in the second round. I like that I didn't see many mistakes. The interception was obviously his arm was batted as it was coming out. It wasn't a bad throw. I didn't see a bad throw in particular. He looked like a kid who's been standing behind a $120 million quarterback, not sure what the future had. Why did these guys draft me? What am I here for? And when given the chance, he was steady. Like we've talked about countless times, steady. I saw what I needed to, and that's what it was. It was steady.
So a couple of our biggest problems with Wentz and it's he's broken, right? Like this, these are not problems that Carson Wentz was making at any other point in his career. So the couple things that we were talking about was missing the guys that were open on routes. He was saying his wide receivers weren't winning battles, but the reality of it, sometimes they were, and sometimes they were wide open, and he was staring down one side of the field. He held on to the ball too long a lot of times. And then we also talked about him not understanding how to dictate the pocket from within the pocket and what direction to go when he took off. So when I'm watching this game, immediately those problems are fixed, right? So Jalen Hurts, first of all of a sudden, there's wide open receivers with nobody within 5 or 10 yards of them. I saw crossing routes. I saw a deep route where there was no one, and he's throwing the ball to them. He drops a dime right into Jalen Reagor with a corner behind him and a safety over top of him. And, he didn't sit in the pocket too long at any point. Like the sacks he took, they were in the backfield immediately, and the line just wasn't blocking, but he saw the lanes open up on the offensive line. He knew when to take off. He got a couple first downs. If you looked at the stats, which a lot of people were like, oh, well, if you looked at the stats, he pretty much did the same thing Carson Wentz did all game. It wasn't even close, Just. He threw an interception where his arm got hit. He threw a touchdown pass on 4th and 10 where he had to throw to an open patch on the field to get the touchdown pass. He ran for a couple first downs, and he threw for more yards in the quarter than Carson Wentz had thrown all game. So I'm not sure kind of where that came from. Did you notice that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of Carson loyalty in this town. And when I say a lot, I mean too much. I understand when you have a second overall draft pick, when you have the investment that you've made into him, that you want him to pan out. I have been calling doubt to Carson Wentz for the last probably year. I don't think I was as far out on him last year as I was 6 weeks into this season, but that was because I needed to see what happened. And here's the big problem I see. Everybody wants to blame Doug Peterson for all of it. And I don't take away from that. Don't get me wrong. Doug Peterson has been as bad of a coach as Carson Wentz has been a quarterback. I will agree with you 110%. But here's where the problem lies. Great players overcome bad coaching. We were talking about this last night. Last year in the playoffs, the first 2 playoff games that the Kansas City Chiefs played, they were down 3 possessions before they scored a point.
Yeah.
And that was not Andy Reid figuring out how to coach all of a sudden in the middle of the second quarter. That was Patrick Mahomes being a great player, overcoming the pitfalls of that head coach. Is Andy Reid better now than he was in Philly? For sure. You can watch it. He doesn't mismanage the clock as bad. There's a lot of improvement. But he's still the same guy that had Donovan McNabb here. And Donovan McNabb was not a great player. I know that we vehemently disagree on his Hall of Fame credentials, but Donovan McNabb was more of a pedestrian-type player than Patrick Mahomes is. Patrick Mahomes looks like he could be one of the greatest to ever do it when it's all said and done. So a great player overcomes a coach's problem, right? So the reason why I don't take away from Carson Wentz because of how bad Doug has been is because Carson Wentz hasn't given me anything. Carson Wentz hasn't shown me a play. Carson Wentz hasn't shown me a read, let alone a quarter, a half, or a game where he's overcoming when his coach is outcoached. And this is the National Football League. It's going to happen. Ron Rivera will forever be a better coach than Doug Peterson. There will be times where your coach gives you everything he's got, but it's not as much as the other guy, and you have to come out and overcome that. And for me, when you go back and look at Jalen Hurts, I mean, look at Donovan never had the weapons most QBs had either. He's still not a Hall of Famer, guys. I don't disagree. Anyway, so when you look at what James Thrash, when you look at what these great players do to overcome these bad coaching matchups, that is the reason why Carson Wentz I am just as out on as Doug Peterson. I have to be. I have to be fair. I can't hold you accountable for one set of problems, and then when it comes to the other side, take it away and you're no longer accountable. So Carson Wentz to me still has it. Like I want to get into this with you.
Yeah.
Where does Carson Wentz go from here? What city or cities can he land in to show that 2017 Carson Wentz? I know I've got a couple. I know you got a couple.
Yeah. So the obvious one, and I started thinking about this last night too, Justin. The obvious one's Indy because he gets to reunite with Frank Reich. But then you think about the cap hit that Indy has to take next year if they trade for him, and I'm not sure they want to do that next year. Maybe play it off for like a year and see kind of what happens, because you have to remember also, and this is the first time I was thinking about this for whatever reason last night. If Frank Reich also won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. So the Bears are going to want to get rid of him. Maybe instead of taking a $60 million cap hit next year, he takes a $25 million cap hit next year, and he brings in Nick Foles instead. But Indy is obviously an option. I think if they are able to move Nick Foles, Chicago would be an option. If Jacksonville is at the top of the draft and for whatever reason decides to pass on a quarterback because they love Trevor Lawrence and nobody else, that would be an option. I think Denver, if they decide Drew Lock's not the guy, because there's a lot of people in Denver and a lot of people in the NFL that think he's not, that could be an option depending on how John Elway feels. So there's teams out there, but the issue is you bring in Carson Wentz and you're not sure if he's going to be able to light it back up immediately or if it's going to be a year or two project. And for a team like the Colts or like the Bears that already have a great defense, can you afford that cap hit if you're not able to kind of see him go back to form instantly? And I'm not sure that they're just going to be able to move him without having to give up a lot, including picks. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't disagree. It's a situation where you're going to have to give up some form of an asset, because as it stands right now, Carson Wentz's potential is not the asset. You are, as a trading partner with the Eagles for Carson Wentz, taking on Carson Wentz, regardless of his outcome, is help to the Eagles. I look at Carson Wentz and I try to figure out what does he need? Where has this team failed him? And what did they have prior that got him to where he wanted to be? Denver in purgatory for a first rounder. Denver's a good team if Carson Wentz lights it back up, bro. You're talking about having Jerry Jeudy out there. You're playing in a hard town to have people come into. They would be a lot more relevant with a quarterback like Carson Wentz over Drew Lock.
Yeah.
But to me, there's one place that Carson Wentz could end up and become what we thought he would. And we talked about this last night. I know you agree. If Bill Belichick were to get his hands on Carson Wentz and basically do what Bill Belichick does, which is rigid type of offseason programs. This is how we do business. There's one way in, there's one way out, and kind of make it elementary to him again. Break it down to the basics. Again, look at what he's done with Cam Newton. Cam Newton is not good. Cam Newton's not going to get $35 million a year next year, but Cam Newton's going to get $20 million a year from somebody next year because he's shown that he's capable with the right guidance. If Carson Wentz found a way to end up with Bill Belichick, I believe Carson Wentz will capture all of his potential. I feel the same way about Frank Reich because Frank Reich's the guy that got it out of him in the first place. To 2017, the Eagles offense in 2017 was the brainchild of Frank Reich. A lot of people don't realize that, and I know that it's easy to say, well, Doug's been the guy. He said he was the guy. Go back and watch any game from 2017. Pick one. It doesn't matter. Week 2 or the Super Bowl. Watch that game and show me a game since Frank Reich has left this team that looks anything like that. That was Frank Reich's offense that got out of Carson what they needed to get out of Carson.
Yeah.
I think the big thing, though, here, dude, to kind of navigate back towards Jalen Hurts, if you go back and watch what Jalen Hurts did at Alabama and Oklahoma, and then inside of that, understand what happened when he left Alabama and went to Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts is a guy who has proven countless times. I mean, he was benched twice at Alabama. A lot of people forget he was benched in a national championship game. When you talk about mental fortitude, when you talk about a guy who looks at this game as I'm going to give my best, and even when my best isn't enough, I'm here for the success of this team. Jalen Hurts has shown that time and time again. And not only did he show that mental fortitude, we're talking about a kid who went from a power run, build offensive lineman and defensive lineman for the NFL school in Alabama. I mean, again, we talked about this. This is my hate on Tua. There are no quarterbacks that have come from Alabama that have been any type of effective in the NFL. That's not what they build. Oklahoma, on the other hand, is a team that does make quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. There's guys that are schemed for this league. Jalen Hurts left Alabama and in one offseason learned the book of Oklahoma so well and executed that offense so well. We're talking about almost 40 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, almost 1,400 yards rushing, and 20 rushing touchdowns. He left a power run scheme for a pro spread team and did not miss a beat.
So I called you last night, and that was, when you listen to sports radio in Philadelphia, you listen to the ESPN analysts, and you listen to the scouts going into the draft, it's kind of hard to put Hurts together because I'm watching this kid play at Oklahoma, and I'm trying to figure out why people are saying that he can't be a good quarterback in the NFL. And I discussed this with you last night. I watched the kid, just like you said, put up the stats, and the stats matched when you watch the games how he played. They weren't inflated stats. I mean, he ran up the score on some bad teams. He didn't perform quite as well against, some of the best teams, but that's what a college quarterback is. I mean, Joe Burrow is the only guy in the last couple years that it doesn't matter who he played with. I saw last season that he was going to rip everybody in half. And Jalen Hurts was the runner-up in the Heisman to Joe Burrow last year. If Joe Burrow doesn't have one of the best quarterback years in NCAA history, that's Jalen Hurts' award to win. So he was easily the runner-up. He was second by, it wasn't even close. He was second. And I thought he should have gone around the 15 to 25 range in the first round. Scouts have question about size. Scouts have question about his throwing motion, but
past the scouts, bro, I told you last night, the reason why you got to look at those teams that drafted, right? We talked about this last night, Green Bay and the Chargers. When you're talking in that 15 to 25 range, unless there's a team that has a quarterback retiring where you need a guy that could be the guy right now, you usually avoid that guy. So in Green Bay, if we look at what Green Bay has to offer to a quarterback that's a rookie, you're learning behind Aaron Rodgers. Now, Aaron Rodgers and Jalen Hurts have entirely different games. You would have to, once Aaron Rodgers moves on, if you take Jalen Hurts to be the guy that succeeds him, you're going to need to basically reshape your entire offense. When you bring in Jordan Love, you've got a guy that's similar size, similar skill set. He fits your offense. You're not trying to build an offense around that guy. When you go to the Chargers, you have Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor, who is more known as a Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray type quarterback, whereas Justin Herbert is more of a pure quarterback. Tyrod Taylor was obviously brought as a Band-Aid. The Chargers felt like they had enough talent left. They could compete a little bit. Tyrod Taylor wasn't very expensive. Justin Herbert was going to be what they built that team forward to. Tyrod Taylor's doctor punctures his lung. Now we have Justin Herbert on the field. If you had those two teams, like if God forbid Aaron Rodgers blows an ACL tomorrow, if you had those two teams that drafted quarterbacks ahead of Jalen Hurts, know that they were going to need a guy that could win now and had that ability. I guarantee you every single team would say, we probably would have gone after Jalen Hurts had we known we would have needed him this year. Jalen Hurts was much larger ceiling and much harder fit. That's the problem.
Yeah. And listen, the reason I have to remind people, the reason we started this podcast in the first place was because of a take I made on Facebook in regards to them drafting Jalen Hurts and you calling me up like, what the fuck is, what was that pick? And we had a very long discussion about it. And I need people to realize something because Joe Giglia actually started talking about this last night on radio. And this is months later than what we're talking about. So caller called in and they're like, do you think teams are going to start shying away from giving these guys early massive contracts and just start kind of rotating, guys that they're drafting at quarterback in the first, second, and third round and sitting them on the bench and seeing what they have so that they don't have to keep paying these quarterbacks massive contracts? Because we've seen a lot of contracts go bad. I mean, Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback sometimes and he's awful other times, but he's guaranteed a lot of money and he's kind of stuck with the
real. Is Kirk Cousins' money, did that have an effect on Stephon Diggs? Of course it did.
Yeah, of course. And Carson Wentz can't get when people have to realize something. Teams that win Super Bowls, and this is the main point, either have a top 3 or 4 QB for that specific year, or they have a quarterback that's on his first deal or early into his second deal where he's not quite getting paid what he should be paid. So,
well, dude, look at that. That's a great point. I don't want to interrupt you. I want to pause you right there because that's a great point. Yeah. Carson Wentz did not follow that normal trajectory. Normally, with these players, you've got a 18 to 24 a year, 2-year deal, 3-year deal that builds into your $35 million deal. But Dakota Prescott and the pressure that he was putting on Dallas at the time last year is what made Howie sack up all of it and give it right up front. And that's a problem for sure.
So we actually went down the list. So the quarterbacks like Ben Roethlisberger got a couple early. He was on his rookie deal for both of them. Hasn't been back to a Super Bowl since. As amazing as Russell Wilson's been, he did not get back to one after he got paid. Joe Flacco, I mean, I know Joe Flacco is actually in the trajectory kind of Wentz right now. But again, rookie deal, great defense. And the only guys that have actually won, and Aaron Rodgers even was on his second deal, and he was massively underpaid because he sat behind Favre for 3 years. These guys are winning with elite rookie quarterbacks that they project to be all-timers going forward, and they end up getting these massive deals and not being able to carry the team. And it just goes to show you have to have that talent around you to get back to the Super Bowl. There's not quarterbacks that are typically going to carry you all the way there. Very rarely, and we can talk about Tom Brady all day, but Tom Brady never took what you would consider in the NFL a max deal. He always left room to get himself out.
He always restructured. He always gave money up. I want to pause that thought for a second. Tori, if you're still in here, I got a question for you. I said this to Aaron last night, and I want to bring this up. In my opinion, this is what I want. If I'm leading the Eagles, this is my outcome that I'm after. I want to lose out the rest of the season. I don't care how good Jalen Hurts looks. I want to get to that 5, 6, 7 range in the draft, and I want to trade up to second, find a way, and get Justin Fields. I have been out on Trevor Lawrence since we started this podcast. I know why he looks like he's going to be the next Joe Burrow. What I'm telling you is he ain't Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. I don't want Trevor Lawrence. Justin Fields gives you so much on this team with how it's built. So I'm just curious as to what you think. And Aaron, I want to hear what you got to say about that too. I think you got to go tank for Fields, bro. Get the real guy. You thought you had him. I get you. You got an opportunity. Reset.
So let's do this instead of the hypothetical. Instead of the hypothetical draft right now, let's look at the hypothetical end of this year with Hurts starting at the QB position and then kind of move into that, because only one thing could happen to make you want to grab a quarterback in the first round if you're unsure if you can load off Carson Wentz and trade him, and if Jalen Hurts ends up not playing as well as you think he should, right? Because that would be the only way you would then move up to grab a quarterback. Otherwise, you're trying to fill another position. So in a hypothetical scenario where you're unsure if you can get Carson Wentz's contract off of your books, and Jalen Hurts just doesn't quite show you enough to know that he's going to be your starting quarterback next year and into the future, then you're in a position where you're going to have to give up assets to get rid of Wentz if you're thinking about drafting a QB, because you're not going to have 3 on your books with Hurts, Wentz, and the next guy. So you have to know that you're going to make a bad trade to get off Wentz. I love Justin Fields. I think it's going to be hard for a team like, and you pointed this out last night, for a team like Jacksonville, if they're sitting at the number 2 pick and they have Gardner Minshew and a lot of other problems.
So pause right there. I thought about that last night after we talked, and I got a hypothetical I'm going to pitch you, and I want you to tell me if you think it's reasonable. I think it makes sense. I just need another opinion. If you took, let's say the Eagles end up at number 6, okay? If you take Carson Wentz and you take Derek Barnett and the number 6 pick and a 3rd round pick, 3 or 4, whatever that little sprinkle you got to give sometimes is, to get to 2 in Jacksonville and get Justin Fields, if that's the trade, if it's Wentz, Barnett, your 6th pick, and a 2nd or a 3rd round draft pick, do you say yes? I am 100%.
Well, yeah, of course. And let
me say this real quick. If Jalen Hurts goes 350 yards a game, 3 touchdowns and an interception, and looks like he could be the guy, but I still lose out, I'm still making this deal.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I some video. So listen, anything you can do to get Wentz off your books, you're going to do it. I don't think Jacksonville does that. I mean, I think you would have to give up Wentz, maybe your best defensive, it's not going to be Barnett, bro. Like, they're going to be like, I need like Fletcher Cox, because you're basically asking a team.
You can't go Fletcher because it's too much money. They would never take Fletcher.
But you're basically asking a team to take on Wentz's contract without knowing if take on $60 million next year and 25 the following year for something that nobody wants right now, the way they're looking at it. So it doesn't matter if you throw in the first round pick.
I get it. Now let's talk about like how NBA superstar trades go. What if the pick went Carson, and let's say it's like let's go Brandon Graham, arguably the best defensive player, right?
Too old. They're not gonna. He's 34. So
what player are you talking about on the defense?
I don't know if they have it, because the guys that are the best on that defense are paid a too much money for them to package with a Carson Wentz.
Brandon Graham is paid pretty averagely, and he's gonna have another year of double-digit sacks. It doesn't matter. You still take a guy that shows you he's got game. But the biggest
if you have to take on $60 million for Wentz.
What if it took this year's 1st round draft pick at number 6, next year's and the year after is like a Robert Griffin trade?
That's probably what I think you have to.
Well, I'm not asking you what Jacksonville would take. I'm saying, Aaron, I'm Jacksonville, you're Philly. I'm telling you need this. Would you do that deal? 3 first round draft picks is a lot, bro. The Washington football team just showed you how hard you can fuck up.
I can't answer it without knowing how good Jalen Hurts is. If I have to eat Carson's contract for 1 more year because I think Jalen Hurts is that good of a quarterback, I might wait until the next year to do it. If this guy shows me that with the same roster, Carson Wentz has right now, that he can win 3 of these next games against some good teams, I'll eat Carson's contract next year because I'm going to need those first-round picks to draft some wide receivers and some offensive linemen to help my future QB. So I can't be giving up those picks if Jalen Hurts is that good. If
So
Jalen
you're
Hurts,
not as high on Justin Fields as me, bro. That's it, right?
no,
Like,
that's not accurate. I just don't know what I have with Jalen Hurts yet.
I don't think that I'm going to see
Picks.
something out of what I'm trying to explain to you, bros. I don't believe that Jalen Hurts can show me enough this year
right,
for me to say no to Justin Fields.
Right, but you don't know that because you just made a point. If Jalen Hurts for the next 3 games knocks off the Saints, throws for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then knocks off another. You don't, because you're not going to get more out of Justin Fields than 350 and 3 touchdowns against good defenses.
Or you don't know what you're going to get out of Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a better player right now.
You're talking about putting up Patrick Mahomes numbers.
Correct. I'm saying that is the breed of quarterback that's coming, right? LeBron James, when he came into this league, brought a whole new breed of player with him. Kevin Garnett, another type of guy.
I love
Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, right? He's singular right now.
Yeah.
But as time goes on and these kids watch Patrick Mahomes, they're going to emulate Patrick Mahomes.
If I think Jalen
If
I think at the end of the year that Jalen Hurts is my guy, I can't give up my next couple first. But if Howie's here, and you don't trust those, you got to let him go and bring someone else in to make those picks. So I don't give it up.
You think that Jalen Hurts could be a better quarterback than Justin Fields. It's not possible. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I do think that. I think he could be. I'm not sure. I have no idea, but I think he could be. I don't know. So how am I can't project that. I don't know. I from what I watch, I really like Jalen Hurts. Justin Fields, I think, could be probably will be a better NFL quarterback. I think that right now, but after the next 4 games, I might not. I don't know.
Here's the other problem you got, bro. Like, this is the scary part, right? This is the nightmare ending of what we've been asking for weeks. Doug Peterson goes into this week with an entirely new game plan.
I know.
Jalen Hurts looks like fucking Russell Wilson. They win 2 of these games, and guess what happens?
Yeah,
the reset button gets smashed, and we got Doug Peterson and Howie and the whole fucking crew back again.
Nightmare. And I want to point out something too. So they bench Carson Wentz, and we know Wentz isn't the only problem. I think he's the main problem, but I don't think he's the only problem. And the reason I say he's the main problem is because you have to be able to complete passes that any other quarterback in the NFL completes, and he's not even doing that. He's not completing slant routes. He can't throw receivers open. He's not stepping up in the pocket the right way. You can't get another QB unless you get rid of one of the QBs, period.
You got to, for sure. I say get rid of both of them. If you can get Justin Fields, you don't need either of these guys.
We'll see. So, but I just don't think Jacksonville. But yeah, I would as the Eagles. I don't think Jacksonville passes it up. That being said, if Jalen Hurts proves to me he can do it, I draft a bunch of wide receivers and O-linemen. So the scenario that I want to talk about is if Wentz is going to be benched because he's not playing well.
Yes.
Who else is going to be benched? Because he's not the only one.
Nobody.
Listen, also, I have a feeling that this offseason, these guys in the front office in Philadelphia are going to end up making the same mistake with Zach Ertz that they've been making with all their other players, because Zach Ertz is now closing in on 30 years old. He's got his first real major injury this year, and he wants to get paid like Travis Kelce, who's putting up wide receiver numbers. Is there any shot? Because you're basically you're doing not quite a Jason Peters, but a Brandon Graham right now, and hoping you can salvage a couple years. But I don't even think they can afford to have him on the books.
What you're doing is a Ryan Howard. They're trying to pay a guy after he did it. And again, I get feeling like you should take care of somebody. I get it. I'm with you. But at the same time, you can't do that. Like, you can't. So who's going to get benched? Nobody, I hope. Because, again, here's the problem. This is the nightmare, Aaron. The nightmare is that Doug Peterson makes an entire 180, and he takes out Jason Peters, and he takes out every player underperforming, Alshon Jeffrey. He gives Travis Fulgham more targets again. He does a 180. And then even if we lose out, if Jalen Hurts is going possession for possession with, even though it's not Drew Brees, but with the New Orleans Saints and with the Arizona Cardinals, if that happens, God forbid that happens, we're not going to see Howie go. We're not going to see Doug go. We're not going to see Jim Schwartz go, who, by the way, I just for a second want to say, because we don't need to spend time on him, that little worm of a motherfucker, Jim Schwartz, he is like the worst guy that gets away with being bad and nobody calls him out. Because Doug has been so overwhelmingly bad and wants to be the guy. We need an entire reset. I agree with some of the comments. Carson can be fixed. I agree with you. But I don't think he's got the mental wherewithal to play in this city.
Yeah.
We are hard on our sports guys. We will tell you when you suck. We will love you when you don't. But there is
and we'll ride you when you suck until you start playing better.
So. And that is the mentality that's needed. That's why I don't think Carson gets fixed here. But who should be benched? Is that your question? All of them. Jason Peters should not be on an NFL roster.
Be crazy. If you're
Jamon Brown shouldn't have been on an NFL roster right now.
You're a guard and you're giving up multiple sacks a game. You need to sit on the bench. Tackles it's a different animal. But if you're a guard giving up multiple sacks like that, they're saying you got a toe injury, and you're a 20-year vet, and everybody's burning you from the defensive ends to the defensive tackles. And Herbig, the coaching. This is why you could put a lot of blame on Wentz, but the coaching, you have to put some on Peterson, because Herbig should have been in there for the last 6 weeks. Mailata should have been in there for the whole entire season, and then Jack Driscoll should have been in there anytime that Lane Johnson.
John Hightower. Why is John Hightower not getting any time on the field? Are we expecting him to be Randy Moss? No. But I want to know if he's serviceable.
He's proven he can get open.
Right?
He just needs to work on his tracking.
You made this point earlier talking about Hurts coming in that I didn't mention, but how the fuck is it that for a half running the same plays and the same scheme with the same guys, nobody gets separation? And then the only thing that changes is the guy catching the snap to throw the ball, and all of a sudden there's separation.
And it's because he's going through his reads. We think that the receivers aren't getting open because Carson's throwing to the ones that are covered and is completely missing the open guy. Listen, there's a guy open on almost every play. It just has to do with who your first, second, and third read is and how much time the offensive line gives you. But if they give you 3 seconds, for the most part, somebody's going to be open. And if somebody's not, you saw his ability on 4th and 10 to be able to throw somebody open, which Carson hasn't done all year.
Hold on, bro. Hey, Cree, what's crazy is 3 years ago we won a Super Bowl, the new standard, the new normal. And this is how bad it is now. This is a dumpster fire that went down fast. And it's because I said this on Sunday, Aaron, and I got some shit from people, but I mean it. When I tell you the only difference between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys is the color of the jersey. Jeff Lurie is not taking accountability personally. Jeff Lurie believes he knows best. He doesn't. He's not the guy that should be making these decisions. And if he had football guys around him, Howie Roseman wouldn't have a job. Doug Peterson wouldn't have a job. Press Taylor wouldn't have a job. Why the fuck is Marty Morningweg back with this team? All of these things wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Doug possibly leaving to give Deuce his opportunity, because realistically, that should be the head coach, regardless of whether he's great on offense or defense. I believe the players respect him a lot, and he's going to pick the right coordinators to put in the right spots to help the offense and the defense. Justin, let's take a quick break, about 2 minutes, and then we are going to get into some NBA basketball and give out our top 5 going into the season. And it's going to be a lot of fun, bud. So do not miss this. Come back in a couple minutes and we'll break down this NBA season, which starts next week.
All right, bud.
All right, we are back. So, Justin, NBA coming up. We've had a fun off season. Sixers do look good. We're going to try not to be homers here.
But not too good.
Not too good. So, Justin and I decided that it would be a good time to give you our top 5 teams. Justin, pretty much in every NBA season, you know going in who's going to be competitive, who's going to be contending, and it usually plays out that way because in the NBA, 1 or 2 players on any given team is enough to get you over that hump, right?
Sure.
So I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I want to do this. I want to go one number at a time. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5.
Okay, that sounds
All
good.
right. So number 1 is going to be fast and easy, right? It's the LA Lakers. There's not a lot that we need to talk about. LeBron and Anthony Davis, they filled out all those holes. They have the 6th and 7th man of the league. Like there's no competition.
So the Lakers, just real quick, I'll run down just 30 seconds of their moves. Lost Rondo, Dwight, Danny Green, Avery Bradley. They got Dennis Schroeder, Marc Gasol, Wesley Matthews, and Montrezl Harrell. They re-signed KCP and Markieff Morris. Nobody, in my opinion, had a better offseason than the defending champions. And by the way, their team chemistry is incredible.
I said a couple of weeks ago, somebody needs to explain to me how you pretty much walked to an NBA championship. He got a little hot at the end, but you pretty much walked.
Yeah.
And you're the most improved team going into the next
Unbelievable.
season. Somebody needs to help me. I don't get
Unbelievable.
it. So the Lakers are number 1. So number 2, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to put a little disclaimer out real quick. There are 2 teams that are not a part of my top 5 that I think may be surprising for 2 different reasons. One, because of how everybody thinks about them, and the other is because I can't put the 76ers in the top 5. They're just not quite there yet. They could be. That could change rapidly in the next 2 weeks. But right now, they're not. And the LA Clippers are not a part of my list.
No, they're not a part of mine either.
So the number 2 team might be surprising. I don't think we're going to agree here. My number 2 team is the Portland Trailblazers. Now, listen, I went back and watched. I know, I get it, dude. This hurt me.
Is this a soundbite? Is this
no, not even a little bit. There's my 4th team is another team in the West, okay? And it was really, I don't think the best team I have in the East is better than 3 teams in the West. So I had to have 2 Western teams first.
I got you.
And I bounced between these 2, and this is why I picked the Blazers.
Okay.
Enes Kanter had his best season ever as a basketball player in Portland.
Okay.
Damian Lillard showed us last year that he is in fuck it up mode, full force. Damian Lillard is here. He wants to try to compete, and he wants to be a guy that knocks LeBron off. He wants to try that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. That shows you the disparity between the best team and the second best team to me. But I look at CJ McCollum settling into his prime, Damian Lillard playing like Allen Iverson, and you now have a big man underneath that's a little bit more reliable than Nurkic has been to you because of what Kanter already showed you. They, to me, are the most complete team next to the Lakers. That's why I picked them there.
All right. So I'm
curious, too. I hope your number 2 team is my number 4 team.
Yeah, well, my top 3 teams are in the West, and then my last 2 are in the East. So I actually have the Dallas Mavericks as the 2nd team.
Great pick.
I think that Luka is actually going to win the MVP this year. So the Mavericks last year, and by the way, Rick Carlisle's, all these guys that I have on my top 5 have a consistent, good, great coach. The Mavericks lost Seth Curry. They were the most efficient offense in the NBA history last year. So they are willing to be able to give up a little bit of that offense to play some better defense and be able to compete. Now, them being at number 2 is based on Kristaps Porzingis obviously moving forward, being healthy and being able to play 85% of his games. Because if he's not, they're going to be probably in the top 6, but they're not going to be the second best. So they lose Seth Curry, but they added Josh Richardson, so they're going defense. They also got 3 players, Justin, on draft night that we talked about a lot, that a lot of teams wanted in the first round. They got Josh Green, Tyrell Terry, and Tyler Bay. and they're emphasizing defense. So they bring in Richardson. They trade DeLon Wright and Justin Jackson for James Johnson, who they're calling the Luka protector, which is kind of funny. A great defensive player. They retain Trey Burke and Willie Cauley-Stein for that defense. And I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is coming into his own. He was a big reason why that offense was so efficient last year. And again, I just think Luka is going to win an MVP award this year. Coming up. So based on
I don't disagree with anything you just said, bro. I got to tell you, the Dallas Mavericks to me may be, there's no doubt that the Lakers are going to be the champions this year. I think we both agree there. But I think the Dallas Mavericks might be the most fun team to watch this year.
And they can give the Lakers a run just because of how good Luke is.
And they can put the points up. They can go basket for basket, but they can also defend, which is really what LeBron's got the Lakers to do last year, was defend. So it could be, this could look like 1998 conference finals, bro. This could be.
I would love to watch Anthony Davis and a healthy Porzingis face off in a conference finals. That would be unbelievable to watch.
Bro, it's the X factor. I agree. So I'm with you. I get why your justifications are there for number 2. So why don't you start this time? What's number 3?
So number 3, I have Denver. They're pretty much bringing everyone back. This is a team that beat the favorite last year. If you want to consider the Clippers the favorite, we didn't consider them the favorite, but a lot of people did. And they were competitive against the Lakers. Those games were close games, although they ended up, losing against them pretty quickly. They showed a lot of heart. They had a guy jump ship from the Clippers and go over to the Nuggets in JaMychal Green because he just loved the way they played when they were down 3-1. Michael Porter Jr. finally got his time in last year, and you can tell he's a massive offensive threat. He could work his way to being a top 10 offensive player in the league, not all around because his defense is trash right now. So if he works on that, he can get a lot better. Murray was so good in the bubble last year that I can't imagine him taking a step back. He's only going to get better offensively. I think Jokic proved last year, because we had these debates all the time with Jokic and Embiid. Jokic is the better player on any given night. Embiid brings something different to the table, but I think Jokic is a better all-around center and probably the best one in the NBA. And
although enough time, I could argue that Jokic is the second best player in the NBA, but go ahead.
You could. Yeah, you could make that argument. But so they missed Will Barton in the playoffs last year as well. He's coming back. Jokic, Murray, and Porter Jr. are all 25 or younger. They got RJ Hampton out of New Zealand in the draft. And the only thing they really lost, Just, and it's a big loss for them because they loved him on the team, was Jeremy Grant. But that's a guy that they tried to put on LeBron anyway in that series, and he couldn't do anything. So you're losing it for the regular season, but these are all about playoff matchups. And once you guys got there, he really didn't help much. And they've had the same roster for years and a great coach. So teams that have been together like that, learn how to play together and have budding stars all at the same time, they can be a threat any given night in any given series.
So I don't disagree with anything that you said. Denver's a very good team, but my number 3 team is my number 3 team over Denver, because I believe if Denver had made it past the Lakers, Denver would have lost an NBA Finals to them. I think the Miami Heat are way better than anybody was giving them credit for.
I agree.
I don't think that was an overachieving year. I think that the Miami Heat are the best team in the East.
Yeah,
and it's not even close
for years.
Spo is an incredible coach. He gets a lot out of those players.
Might be the best in the league.
I got to tell you, I'm seeing Tyler Herro in a way that makes me believe if he accomplishes what is in front of him, could be of the Klay Thompson mold. Mm-hmm. I see Duncan Robinson balling out of his mind. I see Bam Adebayo becoming one of the top 5 big men in basketball right now, just with dominance. And Jimmy Butler is the leader we saw here in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I just think the Miami Heat, dude, from top to bottom, side to side, is so good. They had a good draft also. Let's just real quick. Almost everybody had a really good draft this year. The most to me being the New York Knicks, because they won the Obi Toppin. How 7 teams passed on that guy, it's going to be a problem for those teams.
Yeah.
But I struggled with this. I really wanted to get 2 teams from the East on this list, and I couldn't do it. Like, I have a team that's a bubble team to me, but then I look at the Heat, and the Miami Heat are just so much better. Like, the Lakers are the best team in the league. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about the Mavericks, the Denver Nuggets, the Utah Jazz, who look like they have the ability to get it together, Houston, who is still going to be a problem. There's a lot more competition at the top of the league. There's just no competition with the Heat to me, bro. I don't care what anybody wants to say to me about the Bucks. The Bucks got weaker. The Bucks got worse this year.
I agree.
I don't discount.
We'll talk about the teams that. We'll talk about the teams after that people might think are in the top 5 and why they're not. But keep going.
I don't discount that they got better at a spot, but they got weaker at 5. And the Miami Heat, to me, because they are the top seed in the East, I couldn't let them fall past 3. So the Miami Heat, for almost all the same reasons you've got Denver, bro. They just look like they've got it together.
So I'll build off that for you and just go right into my 4 because it is the Miami Heat, and then I'll let you go next. And a couple more things with Miami. First of all, everyone's coming back. Their whole team is pretty much coming back. They didn't lose much. They hit the lottery with Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. Hero's only going to get better this year. He's like a gym rat. They say he's working on his game all the time. He might be their second option this year. We'll see. Dragic is back. Kendrick Nunn's only going to get better. They re-signed Bam to an extension. Precious Achiuwa was supposed to go around the 10 mark. He dropped all the way to 20 for them to give Bam some relief when he's not on the floor. Iguodala's coming back. And by the way, the Lakers missed Avery Bradley in the playoffs, and it didn't matter, but people were talking about it like it was going to be a big deal because he is a really good 3-and-D player. Miami now has him as well. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. So not only did they make it in the East, but they also improved their team and got better defenders as well.
For sure. So my 4 also I don't have to spend much time on, which is good because I got a question Cree asked that I want to address real quick. The Dallas Mavericks are my number 4. Okay. Every reason that you cited for number 2, I agree. I think Luke is the MVP this season. I'm interested to see what a healthy Kristaps provides. They are just that. They're that good. They're just that good. So real quick, though, I want to pause this. Is Ben finally going to shoot the ball? I'm not going to spend more than 45 seconds responding to this question. What Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers are doing means that it does not matter if Ben is going to shoot the ball. That is what this offseason has been about. That's what Tyrese Maxey is here for. That is why Seth Curry was traded for. That is why every single move that's been made thus far is to take the pressure off of Ben shooting. I'm sure next Wednesday when we start to get more into the season, we're going to cover this a lot.
Yeah.
But it does not, genuinely and truly, does not matter to me if Ben Simmons shoots this year. It's not necessary anymore.
I agree until they get deeper into the playoffs. But for the regular season, doesn't matter. For the first round, it shouldn't, depending on their seeding. And then it might start to take effect the second or third round.
Right. Now, I'm going to start with my 5 because my 5's short like your 4 was. The Denver Nuggets are my 5. I believe that, and again, if you give me a soapbox and enough time, I can convince you that Nikola Jokic is the second best player in this league to LeBron James. I'm not taking away what Anthony Davis provides, but do you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't get triple doubles. That is what a 7-foot center in Denver does.
Unbelievable passer.
And the entirety of that offense and defense starts and finishes with him.
Yeah.
Scoring potential is a good word, Tori, because that's what I want to get into when we finally talk about Ben in a future episode. So Denver, to me, is the team that, just like I think the Mavericks and the Blazers, they're teams that, given the right opportunity with the right situation, could catch the Lakers sleeping, and they're teams that can compete. So that my top 5, just to recap, and then I want to hear your 5. The Lakers number 1, the Blazers number 2, the Heat number 3, Dallas Mavericks number 4, and Denver number 5. And what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Brooklyn. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what we think of Kyrie, we know he's a good number 2 option. He's not a number 1 option. We know he's a good number 2. Kevin Durant is still Kevin Durant. I don't care what injuries coming off of.
Bro. He's coming off. Stop.
This guy
say that. You don't know that.
He's gonna still average 30 points a game. This was a 500 team last year. with a bunch of very talented guards in an athletic front court without Kyrie and without Kevin Durant. I still think, and this is projecting a little bit, I still think that they are going to make some moves and trade some guards because I like LeVert. I like Dinwiddie a lot. I believe Nash and D'Antoni will find a way to get the most out of this team offensively, and I think they have a chance to actually cruise in the East, barring injury to KD. They also picked up a guy that we both like and was a former Sixer, Landry Shamet. They have a ton of floor space. DeAndre Jordan's still there. Joe Harris is still there. Taurean Prince is a great 3-and-D guy. There's talent all over the floor, but they have – what's that?
He's a great 3-and-D guy? He's an elite average 3-and-D guy.
He's of the Robert Covington mold.
He's fucking Danny Green, bro. Like, they're not great.
Well, there's not superstars. He's a great 3-and-D guy. That's what he is.
Dude, all right, hold on, pause. I got so much shit I have to cover.
Hold on. Wait, let me finish. So you have to imagine that with all the guards and forwards that they have and all the spacing they have, they're going to make some type of trade. Based on the roster right now, I still think they are going to finish top 2 in the East. I think it's going to be Miami and Brooklyn. I think Kevin Durant's that good, and I think it's his opportunity to lead a team. Kyrie has to stay healthy. You have Mike D'Antoni, man. That's going to be Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni offense. Every year they finish top 3 in the West. He's going to finish top 2.
Matter. You first of all, so to me, it sounds like you're projecting 2 things to cement your argument. You're projecting the Dinwiddie and LeVert go, which is not a hot take.
Not both of them.
One of them. It's been talked about for 6 weeks. Somebody's going. We agree. And you're talking about Kevin Durant being the same player after a major injury to a guy that's 6'11" and built like Jack Skellington. You don't know that he's not going to be affected. I believe that if Kevin Durant is 80%, he's still one of the top 5 scorers in the league. I'm with you. But that injury could mean he's only 50%. And while he'll still look good, he's not 30 points a game. And you keep leaving out that he's playing with Kyrie. The star Kyrie played with was LeBron James, who is a defer first guy. He's okay with that. LeBron doesn't want to be the guy. LeBron wants to win.
But you got to remember.
Wait a second. I let you finish. This is the first time that Kyrie is playing with another star that is a scoring monster like he is, where everybody with a brain would prefer Kevin Durant taking the shot no matter the shot. And you think that that's just going to work. I don't. You're also trying to tell me, and I see Tori says that the bench is the best in the league. As constructed, you're not wrong. It's one of the top couple in the league, but it's not going to be as constructed. Everybody in this league knows the corner that they painted themselves into with guards, and they're not going to get exactly what they're looking for. That's how the NBA works.
They don't need to get exactly what they just need. They need one more piece.
The bench will suffer by getting rid of Karis LeVert or Spencer Dinwiddie. It's just going to happen. And again, I get Mike D'Antoni. Their offense is going to be great. Why didn't I want Mike D'Antoni here? He's never won it. And Steve Nash is a first-time head coach.
Hold on. But I'm projecting them to be the 5th best in the league. I'm not saying they're going to win a championship.
If you would have said the Boston Celtics instead of the Brooklyn Nets, I would have understood.
No, the Boston Celtics are going to be the 4th best team in the East this year.
Dude, the Boston Celtics are going to be the 4th best team in the East?
Yeah.
So you have the Heat and the Nets. Were you putting the Bucks above them?
You could put the Bucks. You could put Toronto. Someone's going to finish above them. It ain't going to be Boston.
I disagree, bro. You're leaving the genius of Brad Stevens off the table.
No, I love Brad. So let's talk about why we left off. Well, first of all, let me give some praise to somebody else real quick because I think they're going to surprise some people. Everyone's kind of counting them out right now. I know the Warriors lost Klay Thompson. I understand it. But Steph Curry is still Steph Curry. They still have Steve Kerr as their coach. They still have Andrew Wiggins. They still have Draymond Green. They drafted Wiseman. They got Wanamaker from Boston. Eric Pascal had a great season without everyone last year, and they got Kelly Oubre. They have a great second unit, a lot of depth, and a good starting lineup. So I don't think they're going to be a top 4 team in the West, but I think they're going to be a very good team. But I left them off my top 5 because obviously Klay.
Real quick on that thought. Who has a better chance at making the playoffs? The New Orleans Pelicans or the Golden State Warriors?
The Warriors.
All right, I can't.
Steph Curry's still on the team.
Bro, I don't disagree with you. Steph Curry was on the team for the majority of last season before he got hurt.
No, he wasn't. He barely played last year.
Steph Curry is one half of what made that team great. You were knocking the shit out of James Wiseman the night before the draft.
Yeah, I don't love him.
How are you selling the Draymond Green, the most overpaid?
No, because you've never gotten to see those guys play together with Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre yet, and Wiseman running the floor. I think they're going to have a solid team.
I mean, think that they're top 5 in the West.
No, maybe 6 or 7, but I think they can. But the potential for them to be around the 4 is there when you have Steph Curry. Is my point.
I guess, bro. I guess, but to what you were leading into, why we left the Sixers off too.
Yeah, let's do that.
They're just not quite there, bro. Like, to me, the Sixers are the 4th, 5th best team in the East today as it stands, and the only reason they're that high is because Doc Rivers is your head coach. That's the only reason why. There's no other reason. The players aren't there yet, but you've got Doc Rivers to maybe get more out of them. So that's the only reason why they're even in that 5-6 range to me right now. They need more players.
Yeah, listen, I love what they've done, but this all comes down still to how Ben and Joe play together and how Doc Rivers coaches them. And until I see what goes on with this team, until I see the spacing, until I see Embiid come into the season in shape and stay that way through 70 games, until I see Ben Simmons maybe shoot a jumper a game or two, I still can't put him in the top 5. We'll see what happens. I love the additions. I love Dwight, Seth Curry, Danny Green, tons of experience.
Can I say right quick? Brooklyn with one of the best benches in the league. Can we not say that about the Sixers right now?
No, for sure.
Because it's going to be Seth Curry or Danny Green, one of those guys coming off the bench. Dwight Howard's coming off the bench. Matisse Thybulle may be in the starting lineup, may not. And if he is, Ty Maxey's
probably not, but yeah.
They've got a pretty fucking stout second unit here.
Well, listen, man, they just remember Justin Anderson was a really good player here for us on defense at the very least. You still got Shake Milton. You still got Matisse. You drafted guys like you have Max. Paul Reed is there.
Yeah.
You didn't lose much. They got rid of Horford's contract. They got rid of Zaire Smith. They brought back in Seth Curry. I mean, Terrence Ferguson's going to be a good guy off the bench. There's a lot of depth on this team, and they're actually going to
hold up before we wrap up, bro. Tori, what do you think the Sixers go this year? I think it's a 77-game season. What do the Sixers go for this year? I want to know what y'all think too. What did we say the other day? We said we think we're worth about 55 to 60. Is that where we agreed?
Sixers?
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about it, but I would give them 50 to 52.
Hold up real quick, Cree. Do you know of a player that exists on this team that has the clout that Kawhi Leonard does? Because that's what happened. Doc Rivers' management, his bosses, the owners of that franchise and his management are the ones that decided that they were going to let a fugazi-ass motherfucker like Paul George and Leonard make rules. That was not Doc Rivers. That's why Doc left.
Now, real quick, let me break before we get off. Just like 2 minutes. Milwaukee is in everyone's like 2-3 spot, and I'll tell you why they're not. They had maybe the worst offseason out of the major contenders.
Without a doubt.
They lost their entire bench, and their bench was the reason that they won as many games as they won last year. So listen, and if they had gotten Bogdanovich, if that trade didn't fall through, I would agree with that. I would have given up the bench for having that starting lineup and filling in the pieces. But they acquired Drew Holiday. They lost Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, Ersan Ilyasova, Wes Matthews, Kyle Korver, Robin Lopez, and then they had a bunch of guys involved in a trade that didn't go through. So those guys are sitting in Milwaukee right now, and they were like on the trade block about to be shipped out. Guys like Dante DiVincenzo, who I think is going to take a huge step this year, and their bench is going to be, I think, in turmoil a little bit. And also they have this huge cloud hanging over them, whether or not Giannis is going to resign, and he hasn't yet, so he hasn't taken that burden off of them. So there's a lot of expectations. There's pressure. You only got Drew Holiday, and then you lost 5 of the guys that really made the Milwaukee Bucks the Milwaukee Bucks.
So the biggest thing with how Milwaukee got worse is Giannis is a one-dimensional scorer. Do I think he may improve again marginally from outside? Probably, because he shows you to be the guy that's going to try. Here's the thing, though, bro. You gave up all of your depth scoring beyond Giannis to bring in Drew Holiday. And while I tell you, I can't remember if it was Creator who said earlier that Holiday
underrated.
Yeah. I don't disagree, but where is he underrated? He's underrated as a defender for sure. He's one of the best wing defenders in basketball.
Yeah.
But Drew Holiday is not giving you 26, 28 points and 7 assists a night to be a point guard. He's not that guy. That's not his style of play. So you gave up all of your scoring depth, and basically what you're showing Giannis is, I'm going to put all the eggs in your basket, and I'm going to hope that we're right. And they got rid of everybody to bring him in, help defensively, which, again, I can understand. Giannis is a guy that gets in foul trouble often. So you're trying to bring in outside defenders to keep Giannis from reaching with his fucking skinwalker arms because he's so fucking big. but like you got weaker as a team. And I don't think that you can discount a guy like Dante DiVincenzo, who is showing you he can at the very least be a 6-man.
Yeah.
I mean, Dante DiVincenzo showing you games.
I loved him in the draft, man. I was hoping the Sixers got him. But
now to know that I was on my way out of town and again, not that Bogdanovich is a bad piece, but Bogdanovich is a 3-point wing player.
Or spreader, great offensive guy, yeah.
Right, and Dante DiVincenzo gives you a lot more game. So DiVincenzo now goes in looking like, I'm such a better player than this guy, and you wanted me out for him? Yeah. But I don't think you can discount that shit happening to those guys, bro.
Also, real quick, there's a lot of Clippers people, and they're in a lot of people's top 5. They got worse this year, and they didn't even make it to the semis.
Who's the center? Don't worry, I'll wait.
Ibaka, and Ibaka's more of a power forward, but they got Zubac. So they lost Harrell. He left because they lost Montrezl Harrell. You know, and that was their big energy guy. They signed Luke Kennard, who's basically helping replace Landry Shamet. He pretty much gives you the same stuff. And they had 2 players jump.
Your rival that plays in the same building as you got significantly better.
And not only that, Trez went to your first rival, and then the team that you lost to last year got JaMychal Green. He didn't want to play with you guys either. So it's like there's a lot of problems. You got a new coach. I don't see it for the Clippers this year. I think they're going to be worse. So real quick, and we'll finish off right now. Just any surprise teams this year that you think could really cause problems once they get into the playoffs?
Well, I mean, we disagree vehemently on the Nets. I would call them a surprise team. If the Nets are a top 2 or 3 team in the East, that would be surprising to me. So I'll glaze over that one. I think Phoenix. I mean, I don't know how much of a difference Chris Paul's going to make down there. He's going to make a difference for big man. Why the hell can't I think of his name?
DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, thank you, DeAndre Ayton. I think you're going to see a lot of DeAndre Ayton looking like DeAndre Jordan. You're going to see a lot of lobs, a lot of easy setups. That's kind of the game Chris Paul likes to run. But I think bringing Chris Paul in, who can get other guys to score more, along with still having Devin Booker, they could be a team that makes noise. I don't really see that team in the East, bro. I don't see, because look, if the Sixers pull off one more trade and get incredible, that's not surprising.
Yeah.
If the Nets show up and Kevin Durant's 80% of Kevin Durant, it's not shocking. Like, it's surprising that he got over the injury, but it's not surprising that they're putting up wins. If Milwaukee finds a way to make it happen, it's not surprising. I know you're high on the Bulls. I just don't see a team in the East.
I'm not. I just think they're going to sneak into the playoffs.
Well, you're pretty fucking high on the Bulls, bro.
Okay. So the my team. So
also hashtag team Hall of Fame for Donovan. You're pretty high up there.
So let's assume that everybody ran east because LeBron plowed through the West last year, and let's just assume that James Harden somehow winds up in either Philadelphia or Brooklyn. Now, almost every superstar in the league is either on the Lakers or in the East, right? So there's spots opening up in the West outside of the Mavericks and the Nuggets and maybe the Jazz, right? The Pelicans are very interesting to me, and I loved them to sneak in last year. They didn't quite get it. I can't wait to see Zion Williamson have a full season of 22 to 23 points and 13 rebounds, muscling his way in. They filled out their roster, so they still got their guys they brought over from the Lakers with Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, Jackson Hayes, Brandon Ingram's there. JJ Redick is there as well, and Zion's there.
You want a hot take on the Pelicans? I'll give you a hot take that I feel in my chest, and I don't have any reason to back it up.
Quick, give me it after I run through this real quick, because they got a true center with Jackson Hayes and Steven Adams. They got Eric Bledsoe from Milwaukee, and then they drafted Kyra Lewis Jr., who is a speedster up and down that floor. They're going to be running on everybody. They're going to be scoring a lot of points. But yeah, go ahead and tell me.
Brandon Ingram is over 28.5 points per game this season.
With Zion taking the ball out of his hands?
Yeah, because here's why I think that. Zion is going to – if teams don't know Zion's a problem right now while he's healthy, you're a bad team. So we should know today, but as soon as this season starts and Zion starts wrecking shit down low, they're going to catch on fast. Yeah. And Zion's going to get treated like Joel Embiid in the post.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to open up Brandon Ingram, who's got almost – I mean, Brandon Ingram's a big motherfucker. He's not Ben Simmons broad, but he's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's Kevin Durant. That's his build. And I saw a huge step forward in consistency out of him last season. I think he could be the guy, bro.
He's turning into a top 5 offensive player in the league. And I think it's possible, but I think there's a lot of people on that team that can get shots, and he's going to have to put up an efficient 28 to get the 28.
I think he will.
Zion's going to have the ball. Kyra Lewis going to have the ball in his hands up and down the floor, playing a little bit of point running that position. JJ Redick's going to have the ball in his hands. Lonzo's coming in on the second unit, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Ingram was, a 28 point per game guy, but it's going to have to be at like 50+% shooting.
I agree.
Feeding him the ball like that.
37.5 or better from 3. I agree 100%.
Yeah. So any other thoughts, Just? We'll get out of here and see him on Sunday.
Yeah, no, man. I think we had a good conversation. Listen, everybody, tune in. We're going to talk about Jalen Hurts again, but I will say it now. The better quarterback is starting this week. Yeah. I know it's hard. I know it's uncomfortable because you're paying the other guy $30 million.
Sucks.
This is the better player. To have some comfort in that. The Philadelphia 76ers are a move away from being a top 5 team to me.
Yeah.
I don't got much else, bro. Listen, I'm excited for another week of football. I imagine there's a video in production right now between you and our producers. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I just to tease a little, I've got a prop I'm going to have with me on Sunday morning that I think is going to be pretty.
Is it a clown hat?
It's not. It's not a clown hat. It's just as good, though.
All right. Sounds good. We'll see you guys Sunday at 11 a.m. Big Phacts. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. We have episodes up on Spotify, and we will give you our breakdown of the football schedule for Week 14 on Sunday. Justin, have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk more then.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, buddy.